Hey everybody, in the immortal words of Darrell Waltrip, let's go racing. Boogity, boogity, boogity. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back to BarberDave's Barbershop at Home. Well, if you're a NASCAR fan, you know what that intro was all about. Because yesterday I mentioned that the razors that we were going to be using for these 3 videos this week were like race cars. So although this shave is kind of a smorgasbord of products, or shall we say a shave buffet, it's all related to racing. And so you will hear me throughout the shave making really punny remarks, get it, punny remarks, about different things. Maybe only one. The soap I'm using today is unobtainium, and it does relate to racing in one aspect. So when you think of racing, think of all the components of racing. And that's kind of what I chose to do with the shave today. But each of the components does have or each of the items I'm using does have a component of racing in it at some point. Okay. The razor we're using today is another Swedish razor from Eskilstuna, Sweden. And it is along the same lines as what I used yesterday. Small 3/8 to 4/8, shoulderless, very lightweight. This one is the one that's in the best shape, and this one comes from the early 1900s. This is an Eric Anton Berg with a barber notch, and these are the original ivory scales. This thing is just a beauty. It's actually in pristine shape and fun to use. So, shall we get started on the Facetrack? Get it, Facetrack? Again, as I mentioned yesterday, these razors do require a little bit more attention because they're so light. So thin. And depending on your level of pressure, can either not give you a good enough shave, stall the blade out, or if you do too much pressure, so it's a very, because you notice it's a very thin blade. But just wonderful to use. This one has been stropped across the convex balsa and the concave leather. Also, for those following along, don't forget, today is our live episode of Drinks and Daves at 5 p.m. Pacific. So we hope you can join us over at Drinks and Daves. Also, while you're at it, come visit us over at the Shaving Cadre. Good first pass. This razor is not quite as keen as the razor I used yesterday. It's close, but not quite. Also, the even though they were both made in Eskilstuna and they're both Swedish steel and very, very stiff as far as the blade is, this one's just a little bit stiffer than the Ed Nystrom that I used yesterday. I think I used a Nystrom yesterday. I can't remember. I want to thank those folks that commented on yesterday's video about when we talked about stalling the blade, because a lot of times people get afraid to continue their straight razor journey because they'll be going along just like this and all of a sudden it starts to stop. Well, and then what they do is they push through. So it's worth mentioning again that if the blade does stall, and it usually stalls in this area, if the blade does stall, stop. Don't try to push through it. Come back and start over again. Because that'll prevent you from digging the toe into your skin. And once it releases through that, if you feel like you've hit a bad follicle or a rough spot, what you're really doing is you're digging the blade in, and you'll end up with quite a slice. And again, the key to these smaller blades, and really with any of them, is just know your vertical situation awareness, where you're at with the blade. Know where the toe is, where the mid is, and where the end of the or the foot of the blade is. And always try to be as perpendicular as possible to your skin. That's why, again, it's much easier to lock the wrist in the right position to ensure that you have the blade on that angle of attack as well. Hope everybody had a good Father's Day yesterday. As most of you know that follow me on the channel, this is normally Barber Errand Day, but it is a federal holiday, Juneteenth. So most places that I need to go to are closed. So we'll spend tomorrow doing that. The soap I'm using, which I'll let you know at the end of the shave, is something that I should use more of. I have all of them, and they were only available for a limited time, and due to some circumstances which the company could not control, the soaps are no longer made. Well, let's put it this way: the soap maker that was making these screwed. There's a hint for you. But the soaps are wonderful. The presentation was wonderful, and it's too bad that that he couldn't continue with these, because they were just amazing soaps. Somebody also asked me why I outline, and it's just a habit I've gotten into, because that way I know exactly where I need to shave. Even though this is a full hollow, it's a much quieter. I mean, really, it's almost as quiet as a wedge. And again, this one has a barber notch on it. And it's nice because I can lock everything and then just use my head, move my head more. So okay, let's see if we need any cleanup. Yeah, just a little bit. Which is normal in the neck area, it seems like. These are also a little bit more tentative when you're flat blading. So you just need to be just a little extra careful. Also, another tip, that if you ever feel that the handle or something doesn't feel comfortable in your hand, back off. And like what I just did, it didn't feel right in my hand, so just back off. And take another pass at it rather than trying to force a bad position, because that will cause you problems. Wonderful shave. Just absolutely wonderful. Let's see what the alum says. Nothing. Virtually nothing. Other than the normal little tingle, which everybody should get a little bit of if you actually shaved. We'll get cleaned up here and we'll show you everything we used again. Okay, for our witch hazel today, we're going to be using Quinn's Lavender. That's really the only thing that's not kind of racing related. Let that dry down a little bit, and we'll go ahead and go over everything we use. So again, for our razor today, we used an Eric Anton Berg, between 3/8 and 4/8 in its original ivory scales, shoulderless, and just a wonderful, wonderful razor. Very lightweight, just a beautiful razor to use. For our soap today, and again, this is unobtainium. I wish that it was still being made. I do have all of them, but it's an interesting story over there, and I do have many of his brushes as well. But the soap we use today is Paladin Tobacco Road. Now, obviously, Road for racing. This has got tobacco. Let me read here. It's got tobacco leaf, or pipe tobacco rather. Pipe tobacco, spices, and leather. So it's just a wonderful, and it's not heavy though, but the presentation is in glass, and it's just a beautiful presentation. Like I said, Ken, thank you so much for these. Sorry that things didn't work out and couldn't keep them coming, but they're just a fantastic soap if you can find them on the secondary market. Really good for the face and everything else. Okay, continuing with the racing theme, our aftershave today is a vintage one. It's British Sterling. Now, this was very popular with World War II pilots, and then later on with the British racing folks. In fact, I believe there were many race car drivers that used British Sterling in its original form. This is one of the old vintage ones, and it's nice. It's nice and citrusy, a little bit synthetic, but that's, that's okay. For our talc today, we're going to be using, just to keep things a little spicy, we're going to be using Yardley Gold. And this goes really well because it's got a little bit of a citrus component, some wood, but light. And if you think you have enough, you don't. Try again. Wonderful. And then, of course, for our EDP today, we're going to stick with the British theme, and we're going to go with Penhaligon's, and that's Sports Car Club. Sports Car Club, if you could speak. Basically, if English Fern and I can't remember the other one, English Fern and somebody else had a baby, this would be the fragrance. It's just absolutely wonderful. It's not English Fern. I wish it was, but it's about as close as you can get. But it's got just wonderful notes to it. Very, very, and for Penhaligon's, very, very strong too. So it doesn't, you don't need a ton of it, and it just smells wonderful. All right, folks, that's our shave for the day. Our second day with the smaller razors to go around the Facetrack. I said it again. So anyhow, I'm BarberDave. This has been BarberDave's Barbershop at Home. We'll see you again tomorrow for the last. And I'm not sure. I've got two. I've got a CV Helgestrand and one other one that I might use. Haven't decided yet which one. It'll depend on the edge. But I hope you can join me tomorrow. And also, don't forget, come and see us at the Shaving Cadre. I'm BarberDave. And hey, subscribe. We'll see you again soon. Take care.